This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, get into it. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Greetings, Lembit Öpik here on Lembit Öpik live on unprecedented TV. That goes from strength to strength. So glad you could join us. If you're watching it live, it is 0900 on Monday, the 17th of November, Greenwich Mean Time. If you're watching it in the archive, well, then you can see how accurate our predictions are. We always make some predictions here. Also, a big shout out to Sarah E.V. Clark, who's going to be co-presenting the Good Morning USA show, which we're going to start next couple of weeks, hence my shameless promotion of our Big Apple New York background there. I'm hoping that you in America, if you're watching, will enjoy us so much that you'll get your first fix of the day with our Good Morning show. Obviously, you've got more than one time zone in the United States, so we've gone for 2 p.m. That is 1400 Greenwich Mean Time. It's a kind of a balance because it'll still be very early in San Francisco, but on the East Coast, it should be just about acceptable. And we'll play with that. We'll see how that goes. But that's why we've got New York behind me to advertise that. Watch this space. In addition, thank you to all of you who've sent us good wishes, because we attended the Association for International Broadcasting Awards, Global Awards, the unique Global Awards held in London on the South Bank. It was really quite a remarkable thing. Huge praise to the Chief Executive Officer of the AIB, the Association of International Broadcasting, and that is Simon Spanswick, who pulled off another blinder. It was a brilliant event, perfectly organized, and the world's media were there together with unprecedented TV. We were present. Well, that defines us as the ones to watch for the next 12 months. And do please help us with that by subscribing at YouTube. That's unprecedented TV on YouTube. Really want you to be there. The more of you are on our subscribers list, which costs you nothing at this time at all, nothing at all, the more we can do. And you'll find over 500 shows to enjoy there as well, most with a remarkably good shelf life, and some archive stuff there as well, where you can compare what we predicted with what actually happened. We've got a pretty good hit rate there, I think. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about the Philippines storm, the super typhoon, with our guest, because he lived through it. And after that, I want to talk about what's going on in what I would describe as the forgotten war, the inconvenient war. That's the Ukraine conflict, which doesn't seem to be going too well for Volodymyr Zelensky. That's the clown turned politician, and his allies, which are politicians turned clowns, including, some would say, David Lammy and Keir Starmer. At least I feel they're clowning around. They don't seem to have any particular grasp of domestic politics, let alone the politics of war, which is another order of magnitude more complicated. But we'll talk about that with my guest, Warren Thornton. Now, here's my prediction first. I think that the war will continue being lost by the West. I think that it's not really so much of a clowning issue as a terrible error of judgment for Europe to continue struggling on, supporting Volodymyr Zelensky, who's overseeing a phenomenally corrupt regime, I would suggest, and worse than that, who's losing ground, and even more seriously, thousands and thousands of people as he defends an indefensible line. From a military point of view, whether you agree with Ukraine or not, from a military point of view, it seems to me that just as I predicted and others have predicted, including my guest today, Ukraine can't win. So all that's really happening is Vladimir Putin is taking the land he said he'd like to swap in exchange for stopping the war. And Zelensky said no. So Putin said, okay, well, I'll take it then. Now, I don't know if that's right or not, but my guest does know. That's Warren Thornton, who has extraordinarily good connections in the world of military conflict. Former military sniper. Never really asked him about that, and I'm not going to do today. But he tends to be right about the things he says. So, Warren, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Let's start before we talk about that with nature's war in the Philippines. We missed the show last week because you were in the depths of it. How bad was that super typhoon? Remind us what it was called again.
We had Super Typhoon Uwan, which came barreling through. And what it did was, luckily at the last moment, it turned right. It wasn't enough to stop me getting a chest infection. Because obviously we did reports for you from outside. But of course it was, we did some reports for you showing you how bad it was. But it did dump an awful lot of rain in the mountains. It crashed into the Sierra Madre mountains and, of course, emptied all its water there, which then came down off the hills and caused enormous flooding.
It does sound bad. It sounds like you got it. You're still suffering from it. You went up there, were you? I actually saw that you had been out because we played your outside broadcast, and thank you for doing them. Especially being on the back of a motorbike, as far as I could see. Talk about attracting danger, man. You know, it's ridiculous. But it did seem pretty tough. I'm not 100% sure if we're showing scenes from the other typhoon here, but it does look really heavy duty. I mean, you wouldn't be wanting to swim in that. There's people just standing there watching the water come into their property, as far as I can see. How big were the waves? That's what I always like to ask.
Well, it was they were 3 meters. The storm surge was around about 3 meters, and on top of that, in some areas, you know, the waves were a good 15 to 20 feet surge as well. Not as bad as some predicted. Some were predicting storm surge of around about 41 meters. But as always, where it comes ashore is where it wreaks havoc, and in some places, you know, 25, 30 feet. So of course. It's caused enormous damage in sort of certain areas.
Yeah, the video's not playing brilliantly well there, but you get a picture of what's going on. So so thanks for that. It does seem to me that you're in one piece. And did your house survive?
Yeah, we're sort of up in the air a little bit, so we're okay. But of course, low-lying communities, and we just had a typhoon come through the week before as well in Cebu. Which of course caused 80 odd deaths. But you know, we were without electric and without water for 48 hours.
It stands to me we may still have a few connection problems there, but who really knows? I still think it's incredible that you can be all those thousands of kilometers away in the Philippines and we can talk in real time. So we shall carry on. Well, I'm glad you made it through. Thanks to the outside broadcast, and we shall do it again when the next typhoon comes, but maybe there won't be so many. Are you coming to the end of typhoon season now?
Pretty much, yeah. The end of sort of the middle of December.
I can hear you. You've done something else.
Can you
something
hear me?
Interesting. Right, try now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine now. Yeah, we'll carry on. The picture's great. Yeah, just go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, so around about the middle of December, towards the end of December, that's the end of typhoon season. So pretty much it goes from, I would say, late October, mid to late October, through to the end of December. That's pretty much typhoon season.
Yeah, I suppose you'll be the sound relief. When does it begin again?
We'll begin again in October next year.
So you got about 2.5 months of it.
Yes, exactly that. And sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not.
And well, we've been lucky so far. We need to be grateful for that. We can't lose our man in Manila. That's very important to us. It's not just selfish. I consider you a friend as well.
Yes.
Now let's talk about something which is far less friendly, which is the continuing conflict in Ukraine. You've been our main source, I would say, here of very reliable information. And you predicted that, do I say it right, Petrovsk? That they would fall. And the mainstream media So no, it's being defended. It's fine. It's very slow progress. But now we're beginning to see rather more interesting headlines. What the fall of Petrovsk tells us about the Russia-Ukraine war. The sacrifices have got Zelensky far more than Putin. So
Yes.
the beginning to talk about this as well. Frankly, things seem to be going badly south for the Ukrainians, but this is something that you'd already predicted. So what? And another one there. What the looming fall of a Ukrainian city says about Putin's war. This is Wall Street Journal. Now, the West was wanting to tell us that Zelensky could hold the line, and if we send him enough money and everything else, he'll be absolutely fine. But it doesn't seem to be the case, Warren. So here's a case of I told you so from you. But what is really going on?
So very simply, Pokrovsk has now fallen. They're just literally tidying up the last couple of big farms on the outskirts in the north. And also there is to the right of it, to the right of Pokrovsk, about 15 miles, not even that, about 10 miles to the east, is a place called Minorad. And that, of course, is coming under, that is now encircled. And the whole area is probably home to 250,000 people. Then,
oh, it's a lot of people. And how many Ukrainians are defending that? How many Ukrainian combatants are there?
Well, you're talking. There was close on 20,000 at one point, and they're throwing more in to try and break through into Pokrovsk again.
More?
Yeah, they're actually they're throwing more in, another 10,000. To try and break back into Pokrovsk and retake the city, which is not going to happen. They're dying in great numbers, and of course they're just going to keep doing so. At the moment, you're talking about another 900 that are probably cut off in Minorad, and they are surrendering. They do look a sorry state, I'm afraid. They're surrendering. They look undernourished. They've almost no ammunition left. And they've just been left there by the Ukrainians.
So I just don't understand this. All the signs are that Petrovsk cannot be held by the Ukrainians. Everything tells us that this is just a meat grinder, killing orders of magnitude more Ukrainians than Russians. What is it that Zelensky thinks he's going to achieve by throwing 10,000 people back in there?
Well, obviously, it is something of great significance to them. Now, you will be hearing, of course, that this is of no significance whatsoever. This is what the West will now paint it as. But remember, this was a huge logistics hub with not only six different railway tracks branching off in all directions. And for many, many months and many years, in fact, during this conflict, it was indeed a key city. Now that narrative will change. They'll say it's not really worth it. What they normally do, what we do in the West, is we go three things where you know a debacle has happened. There's three things they'll do to try and downplay it. They'll say it took Russia ages to take it. They'll say Russia lost a lot of men taking it, and of course it's of no strategic value whatsoever. All three of those things, when you hear that, that is like their holy grail of excuses for what has been yet another chastening defeat after the fall of Avdiivka, after the fall of Bakhmut. We also had the debacle that went on in Kursk and in Belgorod, and there is another one. There is another one coming, Lembit, in Kupiansk up in the north.
That's really grim. It's really grim because of the deaths, which it's only Donald Trump in the West seems to care about. You don't hear, in my view, failed politicians like Brussels' Ursula von der Leyen and Keir Starmer going on about the deaths. They just talk about Russia and how Russia has to be stopped. And I have to say that I'm quite surprised by the amount of coverage there is now about the impending defeat of Ukraine and Petrovsk. You get headlines now which are making it look like they always knew it was going to happen. You know, what the looming fall of a Ukrainian city says about Putin's war, we've seen. And then we get other ones like why the fall of this city would matter to Ukraine and Russia. They're beginning to make it sound like they always knew this was going to happen. But really, until recently, it's only been you, as far as I can see, in the Western media, who's been saying Petrovsk was an untenable defense as far as Ukraine's concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. When you consider where it was, and of course, the defensive line that they now have, and that will move on now, Lembit. So there are a number of places that are under threat. There is Kupiansk in the north. There is Siversk, which is another area that they are just entering. There is Novoselika, which is another area they're entering. And that, of course, then will allow them to go after Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, which are the last two big cities that are in the Donbass region. And, of course, they are so they have lots of, shall we say, moral significance for Ukraine. And this is where we always get the problem, Lembit, because Zelensky always goes, no, we can't possibly lose that city. It's of great, historical value and great PR value to Ukraine. But, of course, militarily, the West can't understand why they're wanting to hold on to these cities. So the West always want them to do this. Ukraine always want to do that. And never the twain shall meet. And what basically happens then is an unmitigated disaster. When you add the Western stupidity in terms of what they want Ukraine to do, and then you add the logistical problems that they have in getting, shall we say, weapons to the Ukrainians, it is a complete recipe for a disaster.
And that's what seems to be happening. Now, if we can put that previous slide up again, which would be pretty helpful. It does seem to me, yeah, thanks. It does seem to me that looks like a civilian building, but what level of civilian casualties are happening?
Well, it is, to be fair, it's fairly remarkable. And once again, people are not telling the truth here. Ukraine, every single day, targets civilians with drones. They fly drones into areas where there are no military. They do some, obviously, military areas where they try and fly missiles in. Sometimes they're quite successful against the Russians, even though the Russians will tell you that they're not. They do have some successes, but they're only pinpricks. But they regularly fly drones into residential areas. Now, the other day, there was a massive attack on Kiev where they launched over 250 drones and over 60 missiles into Kiev. It killed one civilian. So that tells you that Russia try and hit as much of the infrastructure as possible while trying to keep the casualties, the civilian casualties, to a bare minimum.
But this looks like a civilian building. I don't really understand how they can be so accurate.
But they do have a thing which isn't talked about a lot, and it's called Arrow, and it's a system that they use for targeting on their planes when they launch the missiles. Now, this thing is quite incredible. I've seen a video myself of it, and it was literally over 600 miles. And what you're looking at is them being able to fly it through an open window. Just incredible.
Really? So they are actually pretty on the money when it comes to that.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Just before we go into the break, question for you, and it's a question I always ask. Is there any way is there any prospect, I'll ask a wider question, any prospect that Zelensky can start pushing the line back towards Russia?
Absolutely none at all. NATO are not going to go in. America are not going to go in. Great Britain are not going to go in. France are not going to go in. No, none of them are going to send their troops in there. And of course, Ukraine are now getting hold of 60-odd-year-olds and throwing them on the front line. And please do remember, and I've been speaking about this for a good couple of weeks, I said that once it gets terrible, all the Ukrainians that have fled will literally be told they have to leave the country and be repatriated back to Ukraine. Germany are passing a law to do that very thing, and so is Donald Trump in the US.
So you ran away, you have to go back, unless presumably you're rich.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about that. We probably can't go into that too much, but that's kind of an interesting point. Stay with us. You're watching me, Lembit Öpik, here on Unprecedented TV. Please do subscribe. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That helps us a lot. And thank you to the many who have already done so. And we're discussing the forgotten war, the lost war in Ukraine, some would say, and what's going to happen next. After the break, I want to talk about How bad is it really? We talk about the deaths quite often, and that matters because we can sit in studios discussing it, but real people are sustaining real injuries and real people are dying. That is a trailer for Dire Consequences. Claire Dyer, she attended the Association for International Broadcasting Awards. Great to see her and the team there. You'll hear more about the AIBs soon, hoping to do something of a collaboration with them here on Unprecedented TV as well. Another reason to subscribe to YouTube. And good news, there'll be some training as well. If you're interested in going into the media world, we want to share. And I'll tell you about that in a week or two as well. Big discussions going on, big progress with the Association for International Broadcasting, and also, as far as we're concerned, most importantly, with the expansion of shows into America as well. But for now, I'm with Warren Thornton, who's our man in the Philippines, our man in Manila, and we're talking about the forgotten war, the lost war, as far as Ukraine's concerned, in my opinion. And we were talking just before the break there, Warren, about NATO's position, and Russia has warned NATO not to get more involved. Updates. Russia warns NATO against joining Ukraine after deadly strikes. Quite a recent item here from Al Jazeera. Just stay out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what they should do. You have to remember, if you can, Lembit, if you can cast your mind back to the Battle of Bakhmut, when literally Ukraine lost 120,000 troops in the space of 8 months. Now, the UK army is only around about 69,000 strong, and only about 40,000 of them would be any good for fighting. So if you put, Great Britain, Germany, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, all together, lumped all those armies together, sent them into Ukraine, they wouldn't last a year.
So you just decimate what military there is in Europe for no benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not going to go in, Lembit, until they think they are in a powerful enough position. Now,
that's not going to happen. Sorry, go on.
No, I just want to give you an idea here. So we are looking, aren't we? They need equipment. They need this military equipment and everything else. So these wonderful, shall we say, missiles that they send and everything else are absolutely of no use. They take so long to make and so long to build that by the time, shall we say, like the air defences. We were talking about one of the air defences the other day, which is a British system, and of course
is that Storm Shadow?
No. We're talking about it's a mobile, shall we say, a rocket launcher.
Oh, right.
Used for air defence. Now the problem is they've sent at least 8 of these. They're going to send another 5. Now they've only fired 400 missiles in 2 years, Lembit.
Why? Why so few?
Because obviously you've got to make the missiles for them, and the missiles are quite difficult to make. But you have to remember that when we're looking at being able to match being able to match Russia for the amount of missiles that they, of course, can fire, it's going to take 10 years.
Yeah. Really?
10 years.
That's just not going to happen, is it?
No, it really isn't. And when we were looking at how long it would take to make these defence missiles for this wonderful system that Britain have got, which was being flogged all over the place, very simply, it worked out it would take for the missiles to be up to a level where they could take on Russia every day, it would take 284 years to make that amount of missiles.
Ridiculous. That really is ridiculous. And then part of it seems to be that there's doubt going on by delaying a decision on using Russia's frozen assets for Ukraine. Europe is quietly hedging its bets, and the conversation covered this. And this seems to be another part of the problem. Now, I don't think that the West should be freezing Russian assets, because at some point there'll be reparations from Russia's demands. If the West ever wants to be friends with Russia again, it can't just take money. But there seems to be another problem, because as I recall, in my view, very foolish amateurs like Ursula von der Leyen said, "Oh, let's take the Russian money, let's take the Russian assets." Number one, a lot of those assets are coming from Russians who've got nothing really to do with Putin's decision making. But number two, it's a kind of theft, isn't it?
Sorry, Lembit, I missed that.
I'm saying that if the West starts using Russian assets, it'll come out in the reckoning in the end. But secondly, it's a kind of theft, isn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So here's where we have a problem. When the Russian assets are being stolen, and we're talking about they want to take 140 billion, Euroclear want all the European partners to take responsibility for that, and they're not just going to be the people to get the blame. Now, of course, literally the rest of Europe and von der Leyen have gone, no, we're not going to give any guarantees or anything like that we're going to pay for it. The Russians are going to pay for it. When, of course, the war is over, they're going to pay reparations. The Russians have turned around and said, if you steal our money, there will be a reckoning for that. Of course, that will then completely deter any confidence of anybody leaving any money whatsoever in the European Union, because they'll think when it comes to our turn, they'll just steal that as well. So nobody will trust Europe with their money. And here, where we have another problem, Lembit, is, of course, von der Leyen has turned around and said that if we can't borrow the Russian assets, then what we're going to have to do is charge every country in Europe so much money to put into a pot. Now, if you're going to do that, please tell me why the countries of Europe can't guarantee the Russian asset for Euroclear. Because if you're going to do that anyway, you should be able to give the assurance to Euroclear, which tells you something that they've no
to Euro what?
To Euroclear, who are holding on to the Russian frozen asset.
Okay.
Now that tells you, Lembit, that the European Union have no interest in paying that money back or guaranteeing it whatsoever. It's never going to be paid back.
Meanwhile, the fighting continues, and it's brutal and it's vicious, and it looks terrible from the outside. It just seems to me that Russia's pulverizing the whole. The whole of the. How should I put it?
The front line.
Yeah, the front line. That's right. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I should have been.
Yeah,
able to
absolutely.
Remember that phrase, but.
Let's give you an idea of this, Lembit. There's 2 million men dead. And
2 million.
Say that's 2 million dead. Now, people will say that's a fantastic thing. It can't possibly be so. But what you must remember is that the front line is over 1,000 kilometers long. So what you're doing is you're saying for every 1 square kilometer, 1.5 Ukrainians have died for every single day of this war. So imagine one person died, 1.5 people dying for 1 square kilometer of every part of the front in over the 1,000 days of this war. That takes you to over 2 million men.
That is horrendous. That's pretty much the figure that you've always said, and that's just—it's a phenomenal number. And perhaps some trouble with the video there. Apologies for that, but it just shows killing. So maybe it's just as well we haven't got it. And when you do watch the coverage, it just seems relentless. Going back to what you said in the first half of the program, I was amazed when you said that so few civilians. I agree with you. It's remarkable. So few civilians are actually being killed. It seems to me remarkable. that we've got so much damage taking place, but not that many casualties on the Ukrainian side. And I believe the figures, because Ukraine would be very happy to talk up the number of civilian deaths. So if they're not doing it, it's because it really isn't happening so much. So we get this pulverization of Ukraine, or at least its military assets. How long can it survive? I mean, I'm understanding it costs 300 to 500 million a day to run this war.
By August of next year, they will have to have retreated a long, long way, because by August, they're losing around 1,500 men a day.
A day?
Yes. At the current rate, they had on the 1st of January 900,000 men left on the 1st of January without any more conscriptions. They're sort of talking, they're talking up, well, we don't need to do conscriptions at the moment. But they do, because they're literally, the Army, Navy and the Air Force altogether had 900,000 men left in January. They're losing 1,500 a day. By the time they get to August, the end of August, they'll have something like 250,000 men left. And here's where we also have a problem as well, when they turn around and say about the civilians. Ukraine will talk up the death of the civilians population. Now, when you consider how much Russia have pounded the cities, and you've seen the pictures of them, just imagine over 3 years of war, there are 10 times less casualties than in the Gaza Strip.
You mean civilian casualties?
Yes.
That's interesting. No one's made that point to me before. That's interesting. How many civilian casualties would you estimate there have been in Ukraine?
I would say in civilian casualties on the Ukraine side, not accounting for war crimes that the Ukrainians have carried out in various villages as they leave, I would say it would be less than 20,000 casualties.
Okay. Still a big number, but...
over 3 years of war, that's not a lot.
Meantime, that opens a whole new area that I'd like to talk about, perhaps not today, because I do find the question of estimating the dead very, very interesting. Not happy making, but it's very interesting. Meanwhile, Zelensky and Trump, I think they've got a ruined relationship. Trump seemed to have lost his temper with him again some time ago when he was over there, apparently using foul language and throwing maps on the floor. That's not going to help Zelensky very much, is it?
No, it isn't. But at the end of the day, Trump has boxed himself into a corner. He's got all the neocons are there. He's got Rubio. He's listening to Kellogg, who is an absolute disaster, who's telling him lie after lie after lie. He's also listening to Rubio, who is a neocon warmonger of the highest order, and everybody should be very, very careful of him. And of course, he's got the CIA director Ratcliffe, who of course was the person going like this. When Trump announced he was going to send a package to Ukraine, and also his chief of staff, White House director Wiles. She's another neocon war hawk. So he's literally, what's happened is people like Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance are a little bit off to the side. People like Witkoff, he still talks to them, but his inner circle are only letting people in who will agree. And of course, he's just been golfing with Lindsey Graham, who's the biggest war hawk of all.
You sound like you're actually a bit more sympathetic to Zelensky than usual. I didn't necessarily expect this.
Zelensky's in between a rock and a hard place. He took this gig thinking there's a lot of money in this. If I do it right, I can play at being a statesman. And he's got nowhere to go. He's a dead man walking.
Okay. That bothers me, because a lot of people have ended up dead in the Ukraine situation, and they haven't all been on the front line. What's going to happen then? What's going to happen then in the next few weeks? And once again, this is really
okay. So we're going to.
You can have a look at the archive afterwards. But go on.
We're going to see the fall of a place in the north called Kupiansk. We are going to see literally then push much further north from Pokrovsk once it's all taken. Once that's all tidied away, they're going to push up to Pokrovsk, and then they're going to turn right, and they're going to encircle Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, and of course The Sibiusk is going to fall during that time. As I say, Kupiansk will be the next place to go. And of course, America now have this thing about, shall we say, the corruption scandal that's going on. So they will want that money from the corruption scandal. They will try and get rid of Zelensky that way. So they'll replace him with somebody like Poroshenko, Klitschko, or the British would like it to be Zelensky that they replace him with. But Zelensky's a dead duck, and somebody's got to take the fall, and it will be Zelensky.
The level of firepower here, just the brutality of it, it actually reminds me of the Somme,
Yes.
except for the fact that it's not a stalemate because Russia is making progress.
Yes, this is an MLRS. This is a multiple launch rocket system. And of course, what they do is they just surround a town and they just pound away at it, and then they cut it off with drones. And of course, nobody can get in, nobody can get out, and the people that are in there slowly get squeezed into a tighter and tighter cauldron or pocket. And of course, eventually they have to either surrender or they just get killed on the spot.
It's so brutal. I'm glad I'm not there, but I think it's tragic that those people are. I would say most of them probably don't want to be fighting, but maybe I'm being naive. Maybe some people do. Okay, so is there going to be a dramatic change soon, or is it just going to be continuous attrition?
It will just be the Russians won't fix something that isn't broken. They have a perfect system for doing this. They know at the same time they are attriting not only the Ukrainians but NATO as well, because of their weapons and everything else. They're going to keep pushing for more and more weapons packages. The Americans are going to be more than happy to sell them more weapons, because why wouldn't they? And of course, Europe are just going to get deeper and deeper in debt, Lembit, and you're going to find we're going to be all struggling by the end of by the start of next year. Germany are already, their economy's in the toilet. So is ours. So is France. And
so, circling back to where we started, after many denials from the mainstream media, the Wall Street Journal, what the looming full of Ukrainian city says about Putin's war, nothing about, well, we were wrong. Nothing about, well, Zelensky could never have made it after all, and unprecedented TV and Warren Thornton were right. Just what's going to happen next. And even then, fight for Petrovsk points to the Russian leaders' aims and the problem with peace talks. And I actually did want to ask you one other thing. I don't get the impression that Putin is changing his terms. He's just sticking by them. Yeah. It's just the West doesn't like him.
Yes, absolutely. Zelensky's turned around and said that we cancelled the talk. Well, you were never invited, Zelensky, in the first place. Donald Trump and Marco Rubio are trying to get Russia to agree to a frozen or a ceasefire. It's never going to happen. Russia wants three things. They want no Ukraine in NATO. They want a demilitarization and something nobody wants to talk about. They want to talk about the denazification and get rid of the Azov battalions and the ultra neo-nationalists that was such a problem for the West until 2022, until they started fighting the Russians. And then, of course, nobody wanted to give them up. So, of course, until these three conditions are met, and the Russians are still open to talking if you're willing to talk about those things. If you're not, then we'll just steady as we go.
Thank you for your cheery start of the week. People are watching. Where can we get another dose of Warren Thornton? You've been on already this morning once, but you're on again later, aren't you?
Yes, you can find us on Patreon, Warren Thornton, or at warrenthornton.com. And of course, and that is Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And of course, on Sunday night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. with the wonderful Lembit Öpik from Unprecedented TV.
Nicely put. And we'll play some of that today at 11 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We thank Warren Thornton once again for, if you're watching this live, start of the week. If you're watching it in the archive, then you'll see if we were right or not. Please, please, please do me one favor. Just subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. If you can't find it easy, put my name in Lembit, it'll come up straight away. Unprecedented TV, Lembit, and you'll find YouTube. Subscribe, just press a button, won't cost you anything. And I'll just finish with my concluding thought. I think that the Ukraine war was lost from the beginning when Zelensky took on the Russian might. I think that the West has completely mishandled it. I think that Donald Trump's about right when he assesses Volodymyr Zelensky as not a particularly impressive individual. And I think that the West is, frankly, or Europe to be precise, plain stupid to keep throwing money into it. The outcome's going to be the same. It's just a question of how many people die in the process. New boundary, you might call it demilitarized zone, who knows what. But there is no way on earth that the Ukrainians can win this war. There's no way they can push the Russians out of their land. And I have to say, the three demands have stayed the same for Russia. Whether you like it or not, that's kind of a fact. And we'll see how that goes. Lots of other shows coming up as well, including a fascinating program by Claire Dyer. That's going to go out on tomorrow, if you're watching this live, Tuesday morning, and also on Thursday, but lots more as well. And Tim Scott's going to be back as well, so lots to look forward to. Thanks so much to the team. Thanks to Warren, more than anything. Thanks to you for having the courage to think for yourself. And watch out for Good Morning USA. It's pending. It'll be soon, and it'll be here on Unprecedented TV. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.